So good evening, everyone. It's great to see you tonight. Thanks for joining us. We are now in a series of courageous conversations. This is the second live that Mosaic Georgia has done, and we're just holding courageous conversations with those who've experienced sexual assault, the trauma that comes with it, and how they've been able to heal and thrive. So just a little bit of background about Mosaic Georgia. If you don't know us, if you happen to be a guest tonight, we are a sexual assault center and child advocacy center located in Gwinnett County. So we serve all ages, anyone who has experienced any type of child sexual abuse or sexual assault as adults. My name is Miriam Jordan, and I lead our professional education and training services here at Mosaic Georgia. And we have a wonderful guest with us tonight. Her name is Aura-Leigh Sanders, and I'm going to read her bio briefly, and she will, then we'll just have our conversation and talk to Aura-Leigh. So Aura-Leigh Sanders graduated with a BS in psychology from Georgia College and State University. She has a master's in information technology from American Intercontinental University and studied art history and architecture as part of Georgia Tech's Lorraine Study Abroad program in Metz, France. She was director, instructor of the Internet Specialist Program at Lanier Technical College for 5 years. Then in 2006, joined the corporate world as a user experience designer for clients like AT&T, Sony, United Healthcare, US Bancorp, Hilton, Red Bull, and others. In 2014, Aura-Leigh took over the newly founded Dizzy Gypsy Local Awesomeness and Creative Studio on the Lawrenceville Square and became active in the local community, leaving the corporate world to work as the business operations director for a local restaurant group. She helped found and currently serves as chair for the Lawrenceville Arts Commission and continues to launch Dizzy Gypsy events featuring local art and artists. Aura-Leigh lives in Lawrenceville since 2002 and is married with 2 children, a daughter attending Georgia State University and a son in high school, both of whom are active musicians and artists. So good evening. Again, it's great to see you, Aura-Leigh, and thank you so much for being with us.
Yes, hi, Miriam. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we just wanted to talk to you this evening about your survivor story. Tell us exactly what happened and what you'd like to share with us tonight.
Yeah, I will definitely start with that. But something that I want to start with first, though, is just to make it very clear that I'm really honored to have the opportunity to tell this story. It's something that I kept secret for a very, very long time, and we'll kind of go through the reasons why I and many other women make that choice and what some of the ramifications of it are. But it's very important to me that people know that I don't want people to feel like this is what I will become known as, because that's something we're also going to talk about. And I'm simply telling my story because I want people to hear it in case it can resonate with them and we can get help to people who need it. So
that is awesome. Yes, thank you so much for that. But yeah, well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, when I ran across you, what you're doing there, the work you're doing there at Mosaic is really amazing. I'm really glad to be a part of it.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, and we're happy to have you as a guest tonight. I mean, sexual assault is very prevalent. I mean, really every 68 seconds in America, someone is sexually assaulted. So that's just a major statistic. But you know, it definitely does not have to define you in any way. And, you know, we're just excited to hear your healing journey tonight and how things have gone with you. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
So, yeah. So you can definitely go ahead and start to talk about your survivor story.
Yes, absolutely. So mine goes way back decades. I was college age and I had just gone off to school and had been in a long-term relationship with someone that I cared about very much. Unfortunately, it was starting to go sour, as young relationships tend to do. And when I tried to end the relationship, it went very badly. And so the incident itself happened, when I was away from home. I was in my own room, and it was obviously very difficult, and it did become violent. And even though I will talk about why I chose not to get help, I chose not to tell anybody. I chose to keep it a secret. I really should have sought medical attention. I still have a couple of issues that, I really should have taken care of medically.
Yeah.
But when it happened, of course, I was very, very young. And this was, in the 90s. So the Me Too movement hadn't occurred yet. That was a big step forward in sexual assault awareness. And, in the college community, unfortunately, there's high incidence of sexual assault, and very often victims don't report because there's so many things you are afraid of. First of all, the shame and fear that comes from having this happen to you or be done to you is overwhelming. It's you go through a shock period, and then when that's over, you go through a numbness period, and it just becomes almost overwhelming, the idea of reaching out for help and telling people and revealing that this happened to you. So when it happened to me, I kept it secret. I didn't leave my room for days. My suite mate, because we had suites, she knew, and she tried, because she had overheard some things, and she had tried to convince me to seek medical care and to report, but I didn't, because I was afraid. I was also afraid of him. And also I was afraid I would not be believed, because we had an existing relationship and it was intimate, and all the things that go along with that. So I thought, sure, there's a huge stigma, and we've all heard the tropes. I very often hear people, I spent a lot of time thinking about this when you asked me to do this, and talking to very close friends and people who are important to me and my family, just to make sure that I was making the right decision, not just for me, but for them. And one person pointed out the risks, because that's what I wanted to know. What are the risks to me and to you and to my family for talking about this? He said that, we all saw on national TV what happened in the Brett Kavanaugh confirmations for Supreme Court Justice and Kathleen Blasey Ford, and how she was just excoriated by people in real life, people on the news. She received death threats, and people didn't believe her. And so that stigma is still around, even post Me Too, but it was definitely there then. And I was confident at the time that I would not be believed, even with, the physical marks that I had, I wouldn't be believed. And then I was also afraid that I would be blamed for it. I had already had a relationship with him. I was, I let a man in my room in the dorms, and that wasn't allowed. And so, there's all those tropes of, what was she wearing? Did she have anything to drink? Even though substances weren't involved in my case, it happens very often on college campuses where substances are.
That's right.
And speaking up just became more frightening to me than actually going through it, which meant I had to go through it alone again and again and again and again over the years.
Right.
So the first thing that I really want listeners to hear is, in my case, because it was a established long-term relationship and marital rape are very real. And
Yes.
I've talked to other women, and I know that you have some information about this, but I've talked to other women who, don't feel like they can report, or they're still with the person that has done this or does this, and they're afraid, and they don't feel like they have the right to feel like they've been raped. They feel like, because I'm in this relationship, it's somehow my fault. I somehow chose this man or person, and I am therefore responsible. Therefore, I'm just going to suck it up and take my medicine. And that's so wrong. Marital and relationship rape are very, very real. Yes. You have been raped if this has happened to you. You have been assaulted, and you're going to go through, even if you tell yourself you haven't, you're still going to go through all those psychological cycles, no matter how hard you try not to, of shock, of numbness, of trying to find ways to heal, of falling, trying to find ways to bury the pain, because there's a ton, and the shame, and sometimes, especially in marital or relationship rape, the guilt, because you feel like you've somehow contributed to this happening to you. And so in trying to hide all that and bury it down and go about your life, it's going to seep out from under the cracks no matter what.
Yeah.
When the trauma like that happens to you, it's going to seep out no matter how hard you try. And so you're at risk for depression, you're at risk for PTSD. Those are two
Hmm.
things that I've struggled with for almost 30 years now.
Hmm.
There's also damage to other relationships that can occur. I met my future husband months after this happened, and he was very instrumental in helping me get to a better place in terms of functioning in the real world. But he's had to carry a burden, and he's had to deal with my flashbacks and nightmares and PTSD and my efforts to bury and hide the pain through, depression, sleeping all day for days at a time in bed, not leaving the house, not being able to function. There's also the risk of substance abuse, alcohol abuse, drug
Hmm.
abuse, eating disorders. Those are things that trauma can kind of seep out from under the cracks and express themselves. And so and of course, suicide. People, a
Hmm.
lot of women after a long period of time, especially if they've carried a secret like that as long as I have, and never felt like they could get help, can reach a point where they just don't feel like they can deal with it anymore, plus the
Right.
pressure of life. And so these are all very real things that if you don't get help as soon as possible, no matter how
Hmm.
scary it is,
Hmm.
you have to find a way to reach out. Just tell one person, somebody you trust, reach out to Mosaic, Georgia, or
That's right.
organizations, and just start that healing process as soon as possible. I wish I had, and that's my biggest regret, because now at my age, I look back, I have 30 years of having dealt with this
Hmm.
and realized all of the ways it's affected me, all of the ways it's affected my choices, all of the ways it's affected even my children who weren't even born then.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm going to change that a little bit. Um, the point is, when something like this happens and you don't get help to guide you through the process, it's always going to come back and haunt you.
That's right. Yeah, it will. And, things like counseling, therapy, meditation, prayer, all types of healthy coping mechanisms really, really are important. I mean, at Mosaic, Georgia, we, offer any service that someone who's been sexually assaulted would need. We offer that, from medical services, legal services, counseling. We do lots of support groups here. We have one-on-one counseling for young people, and if you're an adult, we refer it out. So if it's not something we do under our roof, then we'll refer those services out. But definitely talking to someone and getting the counseling that you've needed is just so essential. And some of those things that you mentioned earlier, some of those symptoms, did you personally experience any of those things that you listed in your personal experience? Eating disorders, or any trouble sleeping or anything like that? Did you personally have any of those
I think I cycled through all of
concerns?
them one at a time.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
eating disorders wasn't really an issue for me, but I've cycled through all of the other things.
Okay.
Too much at a time in my life, too much of a reliance on
Yeah.
wine or something, just because I didn't want to deal with it. There would be avoidance from
Yeah.
what's happening inside of you is very common. And so when you can
Mhm.
find ways to avoid, whether it's throw yourself into a project, and then you end up neglecting other parts of life, or you throw yourself into a person,
Mhm.
and then that's almost unfair to both of you, because then you create a codependency dynamic, which is not great. You
Right.
throw yourselves into a substance like alcohol or drugs, not in a healthy social way, but in a way that you're just trying to hide the pain. It's never going to turn out well. It's always going to turn out badly, no matter what.
Right.
And you can say, I have control of this. I've got this. I can deal with this trauma. I can handle it by myself. But you can't.
That's right.
And it's no reflection on you. If anything, it shows you're a stronger person when you can reach out for help. But yeah,
That-
there was so many things at different stages of my life since that happened.
Mhm.
That, depression I think there's 3 stages of rape. There's the initial shock, and then
Mhm.
there's the numbness, and then the ideal stage that you go on to next is healing. But if you
Right.
can't get the help, that healing may not happen, like in my case, for many years later.
Right. Right.
So that initial shock was very difficult. Like I said, I didn't leave my room for days. People would bring me food. My suite mate and my roommates, after I kind of healed up a little bit, they respected my decision for not reporting, but I kind of, I kind of wish they'd just been like, all right, Lily, we're taking you to the infirmary. You've got to do this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they were wonderful. And if you
Yeah.
have people around you that can care, that's great. I was very lucky. But I still made the choice not to report and get help.
Mhm.
And so after a period of time, they convinced me, okay, Aura-Leigh, you can come out. We're going to start living life. And I was like, yes, all right, I'm ready.
Mhm.
And then I got out into the world on a college campus and was just overwhelmed. I had
Yeah.
almost a sense of agoraphobia, or,
Yeah.
I couldn't be around people,
Mhm.
especially men. And men are awesome. They're half our population. There's so many
Right.
good men in the world.
Mhm.
But I ended up stopped going to class and had graduated as an A student with scholarships from high school. It started pre-med when I went to college.
Wow.
And after this happened, I stopped going to class and started failing out of classes and started losing my scholarships because I couldn't deal with the depression
Mhm.
and the fear. And so I would go through periods where I was like, I can't face people. I can't leave my room. My roommate would come get me, and sometimes she was successful in getting me to go out with people and be around people, but there would be some times when I would have panic attacks, if I was at a party or in a class, and I just have to leave.
Mhm.
And I had no control over them, no control at all over them. And
Yeah.
then the worst part, what became even more difficult, because I wanted a functioning life. I wanted to go to medical school, and
Right.
I wanted to be the person I was before, and be successful and have my grades, and start all these opportunities that I had. I didn't have a sense of control, and that was really frustrating.
Right.
And one of the conversations that I had with somebody very close to me when I was talking about doing this interview with you, he asked me, he said, okay, what is the source of the PTSD? What is it? Where is it coming from? And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
that's obvious. He's like, no, dig deeper.
Right.
What is the feeling
Mhm.
that fear comes from,
Mhm.
that night caused? And
Yeah.
that feeling is a complete loss of control. I
Mhm.
had no agency. I was trying to fight back, but there was, I just couldn't. And I had no control over the most basic boundaries of my
Right.
life.
Right.
And so once you cross, I kind of equate it to, I stepped over this really scary invisible line. And once you step over it, you can never really fully get back without
Mhm.
feeling afraid that you're sometimes going to fall over it again.
Mhm.
And so finding that sense of control was what I really struggled with. And when I couldn't find it, I felt like a failure. So then we end up in this big circle of never ending. I can't do this, I'm a failure. I fail. I can't do this, I'm a failure. I fail. Sometimes just in going out and leaving my room.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'll kind of bring it to art and music and creativity. One of the things that I realized as we were I was going through the thought processes of why I'd fallen in love with art so early,
Mhm.
why the process of art is so fascinating to me. I was talking to someone about that, and I was like, the thing I lost that night was my control over my life.
Mhm.
But the thing about creating something like a painting or a song or anything that you create, a piece of art, is that one moment in time, you have complete control over this one thing. It only has to be this one thing,
Right.
that you have complete control over, and it's yours.
Mhm.
And start small
Mhm.
and kind of build on that feeling of getting control back in your life and having the ability to, make decisions that stick and that you can follow through with, and that you can do, and that you can create things that are beautiful, and you can transfer that over into other areas of your life. And so that's why art therapy is something that I find to be really, really important
Mhm.
in the healing process and getting to that third stage of
Mhm.
healing, which is so difficult.
Right. And I was able to, research that a little bit about the art therapy and, healing for sexual assault victims. And there's a lot out there. There are lots of organizations who are working with survivors, and they've gotten, great results. So I think the point that you made about, taking back your control is essential, because, when someone is sexually assaulted, that's 95% of it is that they're out of control. They have no control of what's happening to them. And so that's part of, even when our victims come to us and seek our services, we want to give them back some control, some feeling of control, how we, take care of just their basic needs after their medical exam. If they're hungry, if they're cold, whatever they need, we, just try to serve them the best and let them make the decisions of, if they want to eat, when they want to eat, can we proceed with the medical exam that they're going to do with us or anything like that. So that sense of control is so essential to try to give back to the victim as soon after the assault as possible. So when you do come to a center like Mosaic, Georgia, that's one of the main goals that we're trying to do, especially for our adult victims, just to make them feel like they have give them some control back, because it was all taken from them, when they were assaulted. And just, the fact that your assault occurred during your college years. I mean, 18 to 24 is that, most vulnerable age range when sexual assault is most likely to occur in the population. And a lot of people think it means college students. It really doesn't. It just means that age group is more likely to be sexually assaulted than any other age group, whether or not they're college students. So it's a time to be vigilant if you're in that age group, or if you are a mother, or have friends or family in that age group, that we really do have to look out for them and protect them and educate them, just about prevention and everything that we can do, even though it's definitely not their fault, but we still want to just make people aware. And because most sexual assault happens between people who know each other, it's not usually the person jumping out of the van or like out of the bushes, stranger in a park. It's people who are acquainted or in relationships. So just for people to be aware of that as well is really important. So thank you so much for sharing, your journey and all that you've been through. Part of what we're doing at Mosaic, Georgia, how we'd like to partner with you in some art therapy projects. We have a resilience center where we will be offering many different services to sexual assault survivors through trauma-informed yoga, hopefully art therapy, and many other meditation courses and different things that we plan to offer. So I think that hearing your story is really beautiful, and thank you so much for sharing this. I think there's many people who will benefit from it, because even though in your case it happened many years ago, you're still talking about it now. You're trying to help others, and I think you're showing that the healing process is ongoing. You've definitely made many strides, very successful in your life. You have a beautiful family. So yeah, I just think it's very important for people to see that. One quote that I'm going to just read that you posted on your social media, you said being vulnerable is a superpower, not a weakness. And so that's exactly true. I mean, I think now you're in a place of power where you can convey to everyone, with confidence what happened. It was wrong what happened to me, but I can say it, I can share it, and I can heal from it, and bring the next person along the way. I think you're a great asset for other young women and girls, or anyone who may have experienced something similar.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope so. I think people need to understand, and I wish I had known or had somebody or had told somebody, because there were people who would have told me that you can get your power back. You can. Mm-hmm. You have these steps you have to go through, and it starts with getting counseling help, medical and counseling, sticking to it.
Yes.
Building your support network, whether it's family or whether you have to find it in the community. It's out there. You just have to take that first step.
Yes.
And the first step is the scariest step to do it,
Yes,
but
it
you
is.
can gain your power back. Absolutely.
That's right. That's right. And one other thing I wanted to just mention before we sort of see if we have any comments or questions, if people are interacting with us, I did just want to say, for any young people that may be listening, if you are over 18 and you've been sexually assaulted and you contact Mosaic Georgia, we of course will see you at our center. We can provide medical services for you to get evidence collection through a sexual assault evidence collection kit. However, you do not have to report that incident to law enforcement. That is 100% your choice. And you may never want to report it. Some people report because, they want some justice. Other people choose not to because they're just trying to move on, but we will collect evidence on their behalf and hold it. And then if the person changes their mind at a later date, we still have the evidence and they could use it to press charges later if that's what they decide to do. But I just want to let people know that accessing services that we offer in no way means that it has to involve law enforcement if you're over the age of 18. So things can still be confidential with our services, and no one else has to know unless you want them to know. So
I especially love that you point that out, Miriam, because like in the case of long-term relationship or marital rape, that really does make a difference. Because like in my case, even if I had gone and gotten help and counseling and didn't have to report to police, that would have made all the difference if I had known that, because that was
Right.
one of the decision factors, was because I was still connected to his family, connected to the community that, that we had lived in before. I was fearful. I also didn't want to hurt them because this was not their choice.
Right.
And so that was a very big deciding factor in my particular case. And so knowing that Mosaic Georgia that you don't require, if you're over 18, require people to report to authorities, but they can still get the help that they need.
That's right. That's right.
Important.
Yeah, we still provide the counseling and any kind of referrals. There may be, if any injury is found, we may need to refer you to some type of longer term medical care, things like that. So you're taken care of, hopefully psychologically and medically, and then it's your choice if you want to take it another step and, press charges or involve law enforcement. Of course, that's different if you're a child. If you're 17 or under, that's the law will take that into account, and that will have to be reported, and then the detectives who look into that will determine whether or not it's a case to proceed to trial or not. So but for college age and up, at 18 and up, you definitely have that power and control, that autonomy to make that decision for yourself. Yeah. Well, thank you. Let's see if I can pop over and see if I see any questions or comments anywhere in our live. Let's see.
Just sunlight was interfering with my
camera. That's quite all right. I think we're okay. Taking this little commercial break here, just to see if I see anything. Let's see. I don't see anything right off. I know that some questions that definitely come up sometimes, because I know that many friends and family might, like your friends, you said in your case, they were trying to help you to the best of their ability. But I mean, no, considering what you've been through and what now, I mean, if you could, if someone said, oh, my friend, her boyfriend did something to her, how can I help her? Or, what would you recommend to them as someone who's kind of been through that yourself, in terms of, how you would aid a friend or family through sort of a survivor journey?
Oh, absolutely. And I've actually had that occur several times over the last 30 years. And
wow.
I'm not quite sure why I'm glad people feel comfortable coming to me. It makes me very happy.
Yeah.
But, I've had that happen probably at least 7 or 8 times where,
wow.
And one man, I want to point out that this happens to men too.
Yeah.
This is not just,
that's absolutely right.
it's females, but it
Yes.
happens to men too in different
Yes.
situations.
Right.
To help, to get them help. And so the most important thing when somebody tells you, whether it's rape, whether it's molestation, whether it's suicide, because I got, way back in my psychology degree, this is what they tell you. And all the training that I've had since then is get them help. Even if you're not qualified to help them, and chances are you're not, get them help. Don't engage in, a lot of us don't know what to say when somebody tells them something. For years, I didn't know what to say. And I've been in that place because I never knew what the right thing I needed somebody to say to me was. And so it's so super difficult. So you want to avoid what is termed now toxic positivity. Oh, you're going to be okay. Oh, you'll be fine. You can get over it. You're strong. So you want to avoid, don't go there, because that is not helpful at all. It just contributes to the feelings of fear and guilt and shame. If somebody comes to you and wants to tell you this, one of the first instincts that a lot of us have is to just ask a ton of questions, which is wonderful because a lot of us want to fix the problem. We care for this person that's coming to us, and we want to find out all the information we can to fix it, because we want to help so badly. But when you kind of come at somebody with a barrage of questions, when they tell you that something like this has happened, it kind of scares them and it kind of shuts them down. It also, when you're asking detailed what I call technical questions about what happened, when, what were the circumstances, blah, 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 you are kind of making them relive it again, because they're having to search in their memory and find those details. And this is something that I know that you do really well at Mosaic, that you have doctors and counselors and interviewers who are trained in how to interview somebody with sensitivity to get the information that you need about what happened without making them relive it. And even to this day, when I've had people, when I was talking to them about doing this project, want so badly to help me and ask me lots of questions. And even now, 30 years later, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm going to go into a panic attack again, because I don't want to talk about the details and the technicality. I really just want to talk about moving forward and how we can heal. And so those are the most important things. Just listen to somebody when they come up, and then help them come up with a plan to get help. Listen, help them come up with a plan to get help, get them help. And the third thing is to follow up, because a lot of times they'll have a conversation with you. They've become incredibly vulnerable, which is hard to do, and told you this thing. And then very often what they'll do is retreat, and they don't talk about it anymore. And they just want to not talk to you for a couple of weeks because they just realized they revealed something really personal to you. And so follow up to make sure they go and get help, or help them get help, or drive them to get help, but just stay on top of it. At some point, they might get really annoyed with you. I mean, I love my, my sorority sisters and my friends and my roommates who were trying to help me. But after a while, they're like, okay, we can't help her. She doesn't want help. And I love it. But I kind of wish they just were like, you're going to go to the infirmary now.
And,
but I was just so scared. And they were trying to respect my boundaries, but I really needed a push. And so those would be the three things I would advise somebody if they have somebody who comes to them and needs help. Just avoid that whole shutting them down, toxic positivity.
That's right.
Don't go there. Get in there and do the work and help them.
That's right. 100% agree. Absolutely. Like, oh, it wasn't that bad. You're going to get over it. You'll forget about it. That's definitely not the way to go. And listening as the first step is key. And just trying to give them back the control, asking them the open-ended questions. What do you want to do? What do you think is best? How can we help you to make this better? Who can we take you to? And like you say, sometimes people do need those little pushes. So yeah, thank you so much. That was like the perfect answer. You sound like a trained social worker. So thank you so much. We do have some questions in here that I am able to see now. So let me see if I can pull this up. Okay, so we've got one question for Essie. What suggestions do you have to make it safer for victims to come forward? I think we talked about this a little bit. I don't know if you want to address that, or would you like me to, Aura-Leigh?
I'll open it up and just say, creating among your friends group, creating a sense of safety, but also what we're doing here today, trying to get the word out. Talking about this subject is really difficult. I got a lot of different reactions from people in my life when I said I was doing this. And some, they're so well-meaning and they want so badly to support me, and they do. They are supporting me, but it's such a difficult topic that they don't want to talk about it, or they don't want to share it, which I understand and I respect. But I think normalizing talking about this, not just rape itself or sexual assault, but the second giant half, the healing part, is really important.
Yeah.
So you definitely, I'll let you take it from there.
No, yeah, I mean, I think, thank you so much. Suggestions to make it safer for victims to come forward. I mean, I just, what I said before about our services are confidential. So anyone who accesses us, and any sexual assault center in Georgia, offers these same services. It's confidential, and just go get checked out. Just make sure your body's still healthy, that everything's okay. We, also give out prophylaxis and things like that, HIV meds if needed, whatever you might need after that type of assault, we provide, and any sexual assault center would do the same. There's some hospital programs that offer these services as well. So it's always best just to go get checked out, and you actually don't even have to provide your real name if you don't want to, if you're over 18. So people should know that too, that confidentiality is there. We definitely, make our clients feel safe, and our advocates make sure they feel like they're believed and heard, and we listen to their stories and their account of what happened to them. So I think a lot of people don't experience that immediately after a sexual assault if they don't get those services. So hopefully that can make a big difference. And when you're with us, we suggest the counseling and all that stuff, and we try to follow up with you and make sure you're taking care of yourself afterwards. So, another question: as a survivor, beyond knowing and accepting it's not your fault, what has helped you personally on a day-to-day basis in moving past those thoughts and PTSD reactions daily?
Okay, PTSD reactions, that's a whole different ball game, and I'm glad who asked the question. I'm glad you asked this question.
Ellie.
Ellie, thank you so much for asking this question, Ellie. So PTSD is a whole animal of its own. There's a lot of things that can cause PTSD. Any kind of trauma can cause PTSD. Not everybody who experiences trauma suffers from PTSD, but most people do. And it's just your brain's natural reaction to experiencing something that was so horrible that it just shut down. And that's definitely what happened to me that night. After a period of time, I just shut down and stopped doing anything and just went into a place in my head. And that was when I crossed that line of, I have no control at all. I don't even know if I have control in my own brain of myself. So I definitely don't have any control of anything else. And so that fear of going over that line again is where PTSD comes from. And so when anything around you triggers that fear, like those first few days and weeks and months when I would go out and was afraid of being in crowds, not really great with guys, that's PTSD. But as it ages over time, it changes. I mean, this happened to me 30 years ago. And I, now have all this experience that I can look back on and go, oh, that was PTSD. Oh, that was PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
So the dealing with PTSD is a giant thing. There's been a lot of research, but the interesting thing is PTSD wasn't even recognized until relatively recently, like after the Vietnam War, when people started recognizing that humans deal with trauma this way. And so we're in such a much better place than we were, 100 years ago when it comes to dealing with this. But the flashbacks and the fear and the attempt to bury that fear is something that I went through in different cycles throughout the years. And that right there was one thing that really affected my family and the people around me, because, my husband, and then later, especially my daughter and my son, there was no way I could hide this secret from my children, even though they weren't even born,
Yeah.
because I would have nightmares, and would have really horrible nights where, things would come out of me that I didn't even know existed. And then I had no control over it. And, my husband would have to deal with it, and my children would see it, and my daughter knew where it was coming from. And so that's why when she did this particular project that I want to talk a little bit about, I know you posted some links in the About for the Facebook Live, but I'd like to encourage everybody to go to see. One of the really big motivating factors in me kind of coming back to this topic in my life and realizing I really needed to deal with it was working with a young man named Max Eve. He's a musician here in town, and globally too. He's an international rock star as well. But my daughter has done music with him for years, and he was working on this album called Plethora in 2017, 2018, 2019. And he wrote this song called Warmer in the Rain. And I remember listening to, he sometimes, like a lot of the artists I work with through Dizzy Gypsy, is one of my favorite things, is they will share progress of projects they're working on with me at different stages. Mm-hmm. And so he's always been wonderful. I just love it. He shares with me songs that he's writing at different stages. And mm-hmm. One night when we were sitting at a restaurant where he worked, my husband and I, he played this, demo of the song he had written on his phone, Warmer in the Rain. And I encourage everybody to go listen to it, watch the video, and listen to the lyrics. And he's got the lyrics written out there on the YouTube channel. I heard the lyrics and just kind of froze, and the oxygen left the room, because I suddenly felt exposed, like my secret had been discovered. There's this mm-hmm. other person in the world who knows exactly how I feel. Mm-hmm. How does he know this? Right. Oh my God, I have to go hide. Instead of running and hiding, I started to go into a PTSD attack panic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I've learned over the years, sometimes I've had to work really, really hard at it. I can kind of control them. So I worked really, really hard to hide that I was feeling this way in front of him and my husband and everybody else there in the restaurant. Mm-hmm. And I got to work on the project with him because he invited my daughter to sing on it. And then eventually they made the videos that everyone can go see. Mm-hmm. And working on the project, just being able to, go through the process of him creating this art and being a part of it, and the lyrics, and my daughter singing on it, going to the studio and then recording it, was very cathartic for me, because I was forced on a repeated basis to deal with this awful thing that had happened in my life mm-hmm. in a really beautiful way. Mm-hmm. It's really wonderful, beautiful song that this man had written. Mm-hmm. And it helped me kind of get to that point. And so I'm kind of giving a roundabout answer to
that's okay.
Ellie's question is, dealing with PTSD, you have to make that first step. I still to this day have panic attacks and moments where I don't feel safe, and I feel like I'm going to cross that line in my head again. Something bad is going to happen, and I'm not going to be able to control anything. Still to this day, 30 years later.
Wow.
But there's tools and tricks and people out there that can teach them to you to help you learn how to deal with those when they come. And mm-hmm. the arts and music are so instrumental. That one song and working on that project with Max and my daughter was just life-changing. I never even told him until recently. When we were doing the project, I kept it a secret, and I only told him recently, kind of what it meant to me. But if you find something that you love, that you can just express yourself and you can get that control back, you can transfer that control in your creations or something really beautiful over eventually to when those PTSD attacks happen. And your brain works in really wild ways. You can build those pathways to where, okay, I can control this beautiful painting. I can control these brush strokes the way that I want on this painting. Well, guess what? I can control how I'm reacting to the scary situation out with people that is causing me to panic. It works. Look at that.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
So, but counseling and learning those tools to control PTSD and get through it are really important. I hope I answered the question, Ellie.
Yeah, I think you did a great job. So thank you. Yeah. That art therapy, like you said, and just having that control back through art, dance, singing. There's so many different types of artistic expression, painting, sculpting, just so many different things you can do. So I think all of that is very beneficial. We've got another question from Barry. And I'll repeat this a few more times before we sign off tonight. But Barry's question is, how does one get in touch with Mosaic Georgia if they've been assaulted? Excellent question, very important. So we have a 24-hour crisis line where we respond, 24/7, 365 days a year. That number is 800-900-6019. It's also in the comments or the about section, along with the link to the YouTube video that Aura-Leigh just referenced. Our website is mosaicgeorgia.org. So those are the ways to get in touch with us. Definitely, if there's an immediate, crisis situation or an assault that just occurred, or even if something happened a while ago, but you need to speak to one of our advocates to know how to get help. The crisis line, 800-900-6019. And that's also in the about section as well. So thanks for that question, Barry. Very important.
Okay. And also, if you're not in, I think you said Mosaic serves Metro Atlanta. But if somehow you're watching this podcast all the way over in, Washington or state or, California, you can, we put RAIN, RAINN, which is also linked in Max's video. I think it stands for Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. They're nationwide.
That's right. Yeah.
And if you're in a particular region, you can find some place that's as amazing as Mosaic, Georgia, and they will help you.
That's right. Thank you so much. That is a great national resource. So wherever you are in the U.S., you can get that link and find out where your local sexual assault agency is, or local hospital that might be able to help you as well. Thank you for that. As well, we have another question from Mandy, and her question is, do you think there's more awareness on college campuses and more services available now than when this experience occurred for you? Do you think there's been progress in that area, especially around the stigma?
Okay, Mandy, that's a great question. And it sounds like kind of two questions in one. I feel like there's definitely more resources on college campuses. The awareness is much higher than it was in the 90s, so much higher. Also, the Me Too movement gets a lot of slack, catches a lot of flack for, some of the outliers that caused some problems, but it really made a huge difference because it kind of started and opened the door for what we're trying to do here today, normalizing talking about it, and not normalizing it and talking about it in a way that says, oh, all these men are bad, or, blah, blah, normalizing, focusing on the survivors and the victims. Yeah, justice is one thing, but really the most important thing is you have to get help, and you have to be aware of how to protect yourself and prevent it in the first place. But you know what? If you aren't able to prevent it, you have done nothing wrong, and if you have not failed. And communicating that is the most important thing. I do feel like it's safer. I can't say for 100% sure, because my daughter, who's 20, she is on a college campus, but she's not living in a dorm situation like I was. Thanks, pandemic. I know a lot of people who are still in the college and academic world, and I do feel like schools and colleges have made huge strides in making this something that people are aware of, and that it's become more of a stigma for guys to do this to girls, because let's face it, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it was considered macho, and, oh, I'm going to, kiss her, even if she doesn't want to, but once I kiss her, she'll love it. That trope of, masculinity, which is not true. And there's a lot of men out there that don't believe in that. I think we've done a much better job culturally and on academic campuses of improving that. But the second part of your question about the stigma, I keep as I've gone through this was 30 years ago, I keep thinking, oh yeah, it's gotten better. Me Too solved everything. We have all these resources. We can talk about it now. I can tell you no, and it's not considered rude. And then I find, a case like what happened with the Kavanaugh confirmations and how horrible they were to her, or, we still have things that pop up in the news. And I still see it happen in very real ways, just out and about when I'm in social situations, where there are still people who feel like women carry the burden for whether they're sexually assaulted or not. And I'm sorry, that's not true. What she's wearing should never be asked. How much she had to drink should never be asked. If you were assaulted, there's one person at fault, and that's your assaulter. and not you, no matter what the circumstances were. So the stigma still exists. I think it's better. It goes up and down because we have, people in leadership who fight it, and then we have people in leadership who are role models for assaulters, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll, one day get to a utopian state, but I think we just have to keep fighting and focusing on helping victims.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I agree with you 100% about what you just said about the stigma, that you're right on. So I'm not going to reiterate that, but I will tell you all who are listening about Mosaic Georgia's response in terms of college campuses, and that we do have relationship with local colleges. But again, we are located in Gwinnett County. We do have a partnership with Georgia Gwinnett College, where we will go in and train their RAs on, how to recognize sexual abuse. If one of their residents comes to talk to them, how would they handle that? How would they help them, report that to the college police and then the local police, if that's what they want to do in that jurisdiction. So we work very closely with the campus police, also local police, obviously, if those students want to report, but even if they don't, they can still come to Mosaic Georgia and get our services. We've done education to Emory University, Spelman College. I've got a presentation, a talk I'm doing next week at Oglethorpe University. So we are getting the word out. And, just talking in particular, even sororities and fraternities when they invite us. And it's such an honor when those young folks are thinking along those lines that they want to have us come speak about prevention and awareness and services. So Mosaic Georgia, we are working on that, and we certainly hope that things are changing on college campuses. So thank you for that question as well. Yeah, so I think that might be all the questions we have. Let's see if I can do a quick review just to see if there's anything else. I don't want to leave anyone out, but thank you so much, everyone who has, who's been with us, who've made comments. We really appreciate your engagement and your interaction. Did you have any final thoughts that you would like to share, Aura-Leigh? Anything you want to close with this evening?
I want to say that this has been a really amazing experience. It's been one of the most growth experiences I've had in a long time, because, the process I went through in deciding to have this conversation with you, Miriam, was a really big deal to me. And I want to thank all of the people out there, you know who you are, who helped me come to this decision and helped me be able to talk about this. The most important thing that I want to make sure that people know: when this happens to you, you are not alone. That feeling of being aloneness is a horrible, horrible feeling. You could be surrounded by friends and family, and because you have this secret that you're hiding, you want so badly to reach out and connect to people, but it always creates a barrier. It always, even from the people that you're closest to, like a husband or wife or, significant other, it always creates this barrier because you have this secret. And even if the person knows about the secret, but you haven't gone through the steps that to heal or start the healing journey, you're still going to be isolated by yourself. And that's just the worst feeling ever. And so get help, reach out to somebody, start the process. It's a process. It takes time. For me, it took 30 years. It doesn't have to take that long for you. Just know that there's people out there that care about you, the right people who love you and want to help you will help you. If anybody judges you or subscribes to those tropes and stigma about rape and women, tell them to go jump off a cliff. I have other choice words for them, but we won't say it here.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. If you are, being met with any kind of negativity or anything that is counter to your healing journey, then turn the other way and seek a true friend who really does have your best interest at heart. That is so important. So important. But thank you so much, Aura-Leigh. I'm very honored that you, that this has helped you to share more openly than you ever have, especially on a social media platform, and even things that you've, recent conversations that you've had with friends and family, and more that you may have shared with them more as a result of coming on here with us tonight. So thank you so much for letting us be a part of that process, and as you continue on your healing journey. I've talked to other survivors like yourself who, like you know, maybe they experienced child sexual abuse or something like that, and they always say, you know, if I had have known then what I know now, that this journey didn't have to be as long as it's been. So I just encourage anyone who's listening, who's you know, had experienced child sexual abuse or sexual assault, to just talk to someone about it and begin your healing journey. You can always call our crisis line, again, that's posted. Always visit our website. Our advocates are there to answer the phone 24 hours a day to assist you in any way that you need, whether something happened yesterday, a year ago, 5 years ago. You can still call us. We are still here for you. And if you're not local in the Metro Atlanta area, then again, rainn.org will connect you to any national resources that you may need. But thank you so much again, Aura-Leigh. It's been my pleasure. I've enjoyed spending this hour with you. And all of our links are in, you know, in the about section. Are there any personal, you know, or your social media links or any websites you want to mention regarding yourself or your art gallery, Aura-Leigh, that you want to point people to?
Yeah, so everybody can find me at dizzygypsy.org. And you can Google Dizzy Gypsy and find me on Instagram, on Facebook. There's this cute little Dizzy Gypsy cafe, I think somewhere out west, that always comes up in the rankings first. And I want to go visit them one day, but that's not me. I'm the next one down, the art gallery. And then, you know, you can, I'm open with my social media platforms on Instagram as Aura-Leigh S, and then Aura-Leigh Sanders on Facebook. I'm also a pinup model. This is a new fun art form for me. And so you can find me as the Dizzy Gypsy pinup on Facebook and on Instagram.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And we'll definitely make sure that all of those links get posted to the comments after this live is over, so that you can find Aura-Leigh if you want to connect with her further. And then we're looking forward to doing some art therapy with you and your partners, Aura-Leigh, at our Resilience Center. So that's really exciting. So everyone, look for more information about that, some of those art therapy sessions that we'll have coming up in a few months. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for being with us. Again, our website is mosaicgeorgia.org. And please come back and see us next time. Thank you so much. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.